Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Let's just jump right in. What if death isn't the end? Today, we're going to dig into the evidence for an afterlife. And our guide is a pretty unique source, one that has spent over a quarter of a century investigating that very question. So what did they find? Let's take a look.
You know, it's the big one, right? The question we all ask ourselves at some point. It's shaped pretty much everything. Our religions, our philosophies, our deepest fears, and our biggest hopes. But what if there was a consistent stream of evidence, all pointing toward an answer? So for this explainer, we're diving into the Friday Afterlife Report. And get this, for 26 years, every single week, they've been collecting and presenting what they call solid evidence for the afterlife, pulling it from all kinds of different sources.
Okay, so to even begin to understand the evidence they present, we first have to get our heads around their foundational idea. And I gotta warn you, it's a big one. It basically takes our everyday understanding of reality and flips it completely upside down. This right here is the heart of the whole thing. Mainstream science usually says, our brain, the physical matter in our skulls, creates consciousness. But the Afterlife Report, pointing to a number of scientists, argues the total opposite. They say consciousness is the fundamental building block of everything, and that consciousness is what actually creates matter.
And this quote from the famous medium Maurice Barbanel just nails it. You are not a body with a spirit. You are a spirit with a body. Think about that for a second. It's a huge difference, isn't it? If you accept that idea that you're a spirit first, just having a physical experience, it changes everything about how you see life and, of course, death.
So, if we go with this idea that consciousness comes first, what kind of evidence does the report actually offer? Well, it's not just one thing. It's a whole collection of phenomena from a bunch of different fields. Let's take a quick tour of the main categories they talk about. The reports actually list about 20 different categories. We're just looking at some of the biggest ones here. There are near-death experiences, which I'm sure you've heard of, but then there's stuff like after-death contacts, and even pre-birth memories, which is pretty wild. You've got out-of-body experiences, of course, documented cases of mediumship, a therapy called IADC, and they even bring in some really fascinating interpretations from quantum physics.
And here's a stat that might surprise you: 40%. The reports claim that up to 40% of people have had what's called a unitive experience. That's a moment where your personal sense of self just kind of dissolves and you feel connected to everything. People who have had them often say they're incredibly spiritual and completely life-changing. And it's not all anecdotal. They also lean on voices from the scientific community. They'll cite physicists like Professor Fred Alan Wolf, who argues that the strange, weird world of quantum physics actually leaves the door wide open for the existence of a non-material dimension. So the idea isn't as unscientific as you might think. Then you have very specific techniques like this: induced after-death communication, or IADC. A therapist named Dr. Alan Botkin was using a therapy for PTSD when he discovered that his patients started having what they described as real, direct communications with departed loved ones. And the result? People who were just crushed by grief found profound healing, sometimes in just 1 or 2 sessions. So, how is all this information supposedly coming through? The reports spend a lot of time focusing on the specific people and the methods that are claimed to be channels for communication between our world and the next. 2 major movements that come up a lot are spiritualism and spiritism. Now, they sound similar, but they're pretty different. Spiritualism, which is more common in the US and UK, is really about personal communication and healing, getting messages from grandma, that sort of thing. But spiritism, which is huge in Brazil, is more of a whole moral philosophy. It includes ideas like karma and reincarnation, and the focus is on getting spiritual guidance from more advanced spirits.
The reports are full of historical figures like Edgar Cayce. They called him the sleeping prophet, and he's considered one of the most documented psychics of the 20th century. He'd go into a trance and give these incredibly detailed readings, over 14,000 of them, on everything from medical conditions to past lives.
A key method they describe is automatic writing. This is where a medium allows their hand to be controlled by a spirit to write out messages. But here's the part that's really fascinating. The reports cite brain imaging studies on these people, and the scans apparently show that when they're in the zone, the parts of the brain associated with planning and creating go quiet. It suggests the information is coming from, quote, somewhere else. And this leads us to probably one of the most remarkable figures in the reports, a Brazilian medium named Chico Xavier. A 2014 study was done on a bunch of his automatically written letters. The researchers pulled out 99 specific verifiable facts. The result? A 99% accuracy rate. Almost every single fact was rated a clear and precise fit. Just wow. And the sheer volume of his work is just staggering. He's credited with writing 412 books and over 10,000 personal letters from spirits to grieving families. He never took a single penny for any of it. And here's the kicker. The details in his letters were so specific that they were accepted as legal evidence in Brazilian courts on 3 separate occasions.
So, after looking at all this stuff, from personal experiences to these documented mediums, the big question is still there. So what? Why does any of this matter for how we live our lives right now?
Well, according to the Afterlife Report, the ultimate takeaway is this. If we as a species truly understood that life goes on, it would change our world. The fear of death drives so much of our conflict, our greed, our anxiety. If you could eliminate that fear, maybe we could all shift our focus to what really matters: love, peace, and serving one another.
The reports often boil down all the messages they gather into simple points like these. This list, the top 10 things most dead people want you to know, really sums it all up. 1. They're not dead. They're fine and healthy. They miss you. Life there is so much better. They hate to see you grieving. There's no hell. They wish they'd said, "I love you" more. They're sorry for any pain they caused. They look forward to seeing you again. And number 10, you are an infinite soul on a journey.
And really, that brings it all home. This isn't just about abstract ideas. It's meant to be a catalyst for personal change. So we'll leave you with the same powerful question they posed to their readers. If you really, truly knew that this life wasn't the end, what would you change about how you're living it right now?